So the media is definitely blowing this up, and so are the Democrats, but I think there is some merit to prosecuting Flynn for perjury, and I'll explain why. Now, I think Michael Flynn is an idiot for his actions, and while he has good credentials on paper, being director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, I think he got caught up in uh, the addiction of power or being close to power. And I'll touch on this after I bring up this next part about why he should be prosecuted. So sometimes there needs to be a sacrificial lamb, even in the case when the higher ups are not guilty. And in this case, the Republicans control the majority, the White House, the Senate, the House of Representatives. And the Democrats have been looking for anything and everything to get Trump on. And Flynn, unfortunately, is the first one to step into that trap. So, as much as I hate that political sacrificial lamb, I think Flynn has to take the fall. And I think that has to come in the form of an investigation. If he is found guilty and some type of, prosecution. I'm not saying he should be a felon. I'm just saying something like probation and misdemeanor something would be appropriate, especially when you compare it to other generals that have done similar oopsies, as I put it later on. We can't ignore the crimes of people just because they are in the same political party as us, or align with the same political views as us, or if we like them. We can't do that. That's not in the interest of justice. And I'm hoping that people understand that if they disagree with me. But at the same time, we can't be overly politically correct just to appease the other side and turn into a bunch of people that sanction witch hunts. But a lack of investigation, just fuels these Russian conspiracy theories. So some type of investigation, either by the Attorney General himself or a special prosecutor, needs to be done. So back to what I think happened with Flynn. And I'm going to use a clip from a great TV show I like to explain it. And I also provide some details, like some tweets and some history and whatnot, if you want to take a look at that. Otherwise, after this clip from Justified, you can probably skip the rest of this. There's a lot of sayings that I could post and go into about people being so close to power that they think they have it. I'll let my friend, Deputy U.S. Marshal Raylan Givens, say it from Justified. And I think you guys will get the message.
I imagine that ain't an easy life, horse training. Not that much money, but surrounded by it. Horses travel by plane while you drive around a 10-year-old Subaru.
Was a Honda, but yeah.
I worked a detail a few years back protecting this very wealthy guy. He was going to testify against some former business partners, and this guy had his own private jet. And everywhere he went, I went. I remember we drove right up to the plane, like I was in a Bon Jovi video. The whole thing was catered, didn't have to wear a seatbelt, nobody showed me any safety demonstration. Pilot just turned around and said, "Everybody ready?" And off we went. As much as I told myself, it wasn't my jet, it wasn't my life. Next time I had to go to a regular airport and stand in that long security line, I missed it. So, I know it can be hard.
So that's that, and I'll explain a little bit by what I mean by showing that clip and what I think happened. I think what happened was he was so close to the president that his arrogance really just got to the better of him, and he did in fact attempt to speak on behalf of the United States or the United States in a couple of days. This was on the 29th. He said the meeting was on the 28th or the 29th or something, in regards to the sanctions Obama issued on the 28th or the 29th. And he lied about the date of the meeting to the FBI. And at minimum, I think he should be charged with perjury. We can't go soft on people who break the law just because they are in the same political party, or in this case, technically he's a Democrat, Flynn, because we like them or whatever. You can't lie to the vice president and presumably the president and mislead the American people like that. You also can't violate the law by perjuring yourself, by lying about the dates that you met with a foreign government, and possibly violating the Logan Act, although I don't think that's really a strong case, the Logan Act aspect of it. I just don't think there's enough there. And to be honest, even if he did technically violate the Logan Act, Trump had already been elected, so the discussions would have to be very specific. He'd have to be under the pretense of acting under Obama versus Trump to really fulfill the spirit of the law. He was kind of doing his job, communicating with foreign nationals. Obama acted like a child, throwing out those Russian diplomats without any real evidence, and this has been talked about a lot. The Russians did not hack the election based off evidence as of this video. The specific law that Flynn has been alleged to have violated is the Logan Act, which basically makes it so private citizens can't be negotiating on behalf of the United States. It reads, the Logan Act was basically a response to an effort by a Philadelphia Quaker named George Logan to try to negotiate directly with the French government. This was a big scandal at the time in foreign affairs because Logan, a Democratic Republican, was trying to thwart the policy of the Federalists, who controlled both houses of Congress and the White House. And this was way back in 1798. And the text reads, 18 U.S.C. Section 953, private correspondence with foreign governments. So that's certainly interesting, and the constitutionality of this has not really been debated, although there was a case in the Southern District of New York regarding this, and there was a Supreme Court case way back in 1936. I believe it was United States v. Curtiss-Wright, something like that. I think it was a company that dealt with imports, something like that. I'll put it up on the screen. But there's been allegations of violations of the Logan Act, but it hasn't really been used, even when it's been fairly obvious that someone has broken the Logan Act and the law. An example would be the 47 Republicans that released an open letter to the Iranian government regarding Obama's attempts to broker nuclear arms deals. That would be undermining the executive branch. However, there's some debate about how the Logan Act would have held up in court. I mean, you can't prosecute 47 senators. I mean, they run the freaking country. Additionally, certain parts of the Constitution kind of make this law kind of ambiguous. So there's a lot of laws involving communicating with foreign governments and whatnot, and communicating with foreign nationals that you can trip over. Now, the one thing I noticed was his Twitter was very similarly blunt and sometimes reckless, like Trump's, except he wasn't Trump. Trump is probably a little bit sharper in terms of the overall picture and how he handles himself. He knows what he's doing. Flynn kind of flew off the handle with some of his tweets and whatnot. And as soon as, Trump put his arm around him, so to speak, he thought he could amp that up a little bit more. But that's not the case. So not a lot of tweets after the election, really. That's not really all that strange. As you become a public figure, you kind of have to be careful what you say, and whatnot. It's interesting. His son, Michael Flynn Jr., does like to talk a lot, which can be a little bit problematic. Knowing someone that's in politics, knowing a family in politics, and knowing the son of a politician, you really have to be careful what you say, especially if you don't want to be involved or screw up your mom or dad's career or whatever. And Chuck Schumer called for a special prosecutor, which I think he's being a little bit hypocritical because he didn't call for it with Hillary Clinton, and there's plenty of conflicts there. But I agree with him in part, so I'll show part of that, and I'll link to the article with a video as well.
The White House counsel cannot lead this investigation, and the new Attorney General cannot be, Jeff Sessions, cannot be the person to lead that investigation. Department of Justice regulations specifically prohibit individuals with political ties to the subjects of an investigation from leading that investigation. I want to read you the regulations from DOJ website. No Department of Justice employee may participate in a criminal investigation or prosecution if he has a personal or political relationship with any person or organization substantially involved in the conduct that is the subject of the investigation or prosecution, or who would be directly affected by the outcome. The regulations continue.
Chuck Schumer says that Flynn and Sessions were on the same national security board or something, but I'm not sure if that rises to the level of a specific relationship when you compare it to the conflicts with the Clinton administration. But I suppose he is right with the DOJ guidelines for conflicts of interest. That said, Sessions is the Attorney General, and he has a lot of discretion, and I think he can be partial. But in the interest of transparency, a special prosecutor would be good. So there's a bunch of stuff on Wikipedia already, but I showed the feed as far back as I could, 2011, when he joined or whatever. Now, I don't think what he's done, comes close to espionage or anything like that, but I think it's pretty bad. It's probably on par with what General Petraeus did. I know there's obviously different circumstances, but both oopsies in the world of politics and whatnot. In my opinion, General Petraeus got way more punishment than what he deserved, because General Petraeus, in sentencing, they should have considered his outstanding record. And honestly, I think Petraeus could replace Flynn if Trump sits him down and says, hey, keep it together. Don't be like my last guy. Overall, sometimes I just think people need to be made an example of. And you can't lie to the FBI. You can't mislead or lie to the vice president and possibly the president. You just can't do that. And I think an example needs to be made. And Trump I think he's a strong leader, and he's not afraid to really make some drastic decisions, and I hope he makes the right decision for this. Regardless of what that is, my opinion, that would be an investigation of Flynn. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you were able to get something out of that. Thanks for watching. America Sheriff out.